Ladies and gentlemen, fortunately there's only three, and fortunately will not take much of time. But there's an interesting topic that the Congress has given me to discuss. Okay, I will start with both my stage mates here. On to my left is Mr. Ganesh Mishra, Head of Commercial Trend Hypermarkets. So he's a guy who's got a lot of experience in groceries and supermarkets. He deals with thousands of customers a day, I presume. And on to my right is Mohit, Director of Retail, Raymond, as you all know, a very leading brand. But let me start picking up these two gentlemen's brain for a few minutes before we throw it open to the audience. The first thing which I wanted to find out is that both of you can respond, either of you can respond. How does organization disrupt and become innovative? Okay, what comes to my mind, just to start the point of discussion is, for example, Amazon is a marketplace, right? How did it really enter into a prime entertainment field? Was the intention, to disrupt the entertainment market, or was the intention to show the innovation, but then are they really picking up on somebody else's domain? These are the things that comes to my mind. So even today, I'm not able to, understand why did Amazon at all went into entertainment as a business. Of course, you may come and tell me that, no, there's a lot of, customer base which they want to cash in on, and therefore they, did it. That's fine. But the question is, the domain is not theirs. Entertainment is totally different ballgame. So an e-commerce company, typically dealing with, products like electronics and books and things like that, getting into a totally different field of entertainment. I'm a member of Prime. Actually, I have started watching their web serials, which sort of gives me a different experience altogether. So the question to both of you gentlemen is, how does innovation help to disrupt the existing flow of business, and therefore make you stand away or alone from the competition, and you become really successful? Or does really disruption lead to success?
What is disruption and how to actually go ahead with disruption? So, and in fact, who else can tell you better than that, than a grocery retailer like us, who really had to go through that, competition coming on from e-commerce, and getting impacted heavily. But, if I go to the core question as to what disruption is basically solving problem of the society in a cost-effective, in a different way, so that you give the best value to the customer, you solve the problem. And this is what has happened, across, if you see Uber, Ola, etc., Airbnb, all of that is all examples of a business model being changed. So disruption is not technology-led. Technology is enabler of disruption, Disruption has to first start with a business model, a clarity of thought as to what you really want to do, and then how you leverage technology. And at times, because of the technological capability being there, you start thinking of new and new opportunities to solve your problem. So essentially, I would say disruption happens only when you have a model in mind, and technology is something which enables that disruption.
Yeah, can I ask you a small question on this? See, your customers are used to come to buy grocery on a regular basis, and they know exactly which shelf has got what, and they walk into and they come for a monthly purchase of groceries and things like that. Now, how do you innovatively disrupt their mind and their behavior, so that it actually benefits you as well as the customer?
Yeah, so if you see, Roli touched upon this point in her presentation. We have got terabytes of data. We have thousands of customers who actually come to our store. Now, amongst all the customers, if we have to kind of go and meet the need of our customer, the first thing is that we should be knowing our customer quite well. And that happens by churning the terabytes of data that we have as to what shoppers really want. Last year, basis this data. So we have a loyalty program called Club Card, and 93% of our sales the transaction gets recorded in Club Card, which means that we have a trench of data to actually understand the shopping behavior. And there is a saying that a shopper, the the shopping pattern of a shopper is the true indicator rather than any other social profiling, etc., that is being done. So we had the real data to actually understand what the shopper profiles are, and we started finding out the emerging trends as to what where the shoppers are really moving. And if I really have to ask, this question as to what you are really looking out for, from your grocery point of view, obviously the answer will be like you want options which is more healthier. At the same time, we also see behavior which is moving towards indulgence. Now, all of this we actually got through the data that we had. We also spoke to our customers, and basis that, in the last year, we came out with around 91 ideas, to be precise, as to where we'll be targeting and we'll be creating disruptions and differentiation for shoppers so that they can just come and experience those stuff. And that has actually given us a phenomenal result.
Okay, good. Thank you. Over to Mohit. Sorry.
As a business model evolves, what really happens is that when a newcomer comes in, so there are two things. One is he innovates or he disrupts. And what we have seen is because of technology and the technology platforms that exist, if disruptions were happening in the past at the rate of once in a decade, now it happens, if not once in a year, at least once a month. And what it basically shows is that there is a certain need for a consumer that is not being met. And that is not being met because the business models that are supposed to cater to those needs, unfortunately, have become rigid over a period of time. And disruption, by virtue of that term itself, disrupts the business model. It commoditizes the product, and it completely brings in a new paradigm. And that is where the existing incumbents are completely disturbed, and they don't know how to proceed. But there's also another side to it. And what disruption does is it also shows you opportunities to either collaborate. You can collaborate with a disruptor. You can co-create with a disruptor. Or you can actually look at it and completely change your business model. So I'd like to give you an example. A few years ago with the e-business coming online, so brick and mortar stores really felt that pinch, especially a couple of years ago with the blitz that happened pre-Diwali. End of reason sale started off, and we suddenly saw there was a drop in footfalls. This was about 3 Diwalis ago. At Raymond, what we realized was that while we have been here for 90 years and we have got this huge amount of loyalty base through our Raymond Reward program, we realized that in spite of being connected with the consumers for a long period of time, a newbie who was in the market for just a few years knew more about the consumers than we did. Yeah, as a retailer, as a brick and mortar retailer, I only can recognize my consumer when he's at the cash till. After him spending 45 minutes in the store deciding on the product range that he wants. So we saw this as, so when this e-biz disruption happened, we saw it as an opportunity for us to actually leverage existing technology and know our consumers better. So it's been 3 years since we completely revamped our program. And today I must say that we are at a very much, let's say, we have a stronger hold on who our consumers are, when they shop, what they shop, how they shop, and how we can reach out to them. So it actually opened up new doors for us.
Yeah, that's a very appropriate observation. The second part which I want to find out, both of you gentlemen, is that, can innovation which causes a disruption, can make you more competitive? Or is it just, one part is satisfying the customers, which is fine, which I think you all got in place, both with the help of technology and things like that. But how do you really position yourself in terms of being innovative and also disrupting the customers or maybe the market itself, so that you are in a better position in terms of competitive edge? How do you?
Yeah, so in grocery retail, you would have seen emergence of discounters. So discounters, they have a different business model. They just pass you the discount without dwelling much on the experience or giving you much, in terms of product range, etc. So, and that's not happened in India. In fact, in India, it happened later. This has happened long time back, internationally in Europe, America, all these places. It primarily started in Europe with Aldi and Lidl, Bedronka, all these players, coming and kind of attacking the full service retailers. And all these retailers got impacted. That happened during the time, when the economy of Europe was not in a good shape. People were actually, moving from, say, nuclear family to joint family. There was a reverse trend that was seen there, just in order to save money. So that was the economic scenario, and therefore this model kind of all of a sudden, emerged and started threatening the full service retailer. We saw a similar trend happening in India, yeah, and we already had a business model in place. I mean, if you are a full service retailer and moving from a full service to a retailer, to matching a retailer who is just a discounter, you cannot just go back in time and, you cannot restructure your cost modeling, etc., to match that. So, yes, we were impacted, and therefore the only prudent option that we had was whatever limited resources that we had to use that limited resource prudently to create a perception of being a good value provider to our customers, and again using the various tools, leveraging Club Card, doing more targeted promotions, which again comes after you understand your customer better. So understanding our customer better, identifying who are the customers who is more prone to discounting, who are the customers who wants more of service, who are the customers who are looking for a little premium product, so segregating those customer profiles and then targeting those segment of customers through our limited resource, and therefore, catering to those set also, and at the same time creating a perception of us being a good value provider. And it's not only a perception, it's a reality also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Mohit?
One of the things that we figured out very early on is that you might not have everything else, all the answers to the questions that are being asked, but you actually need to, get on with it, jump into the mix, and start running before you learn to walk. So what we realized was that in order to win the battle that is there in the marketplace, speed of action is critical. And the traditional model would be, let's say, if I was to, let's say, activate a brand or a product or launch a new innovation, I would typically go to a mass media, advertise on TV or advertise on digital or something like that. But what we realized was that for a brick and mortar retailer like us, who's got a presence in over 420 towns, the easier way is how do I empower my stores to actually activate locally. So just to give you an example, last year, if you look at last year, I would have done about 600 plus activations in the market. But what we did this year was we empowered our stores to actually go out in the market and activate. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. It's okay if you only get it 80% right. But what we saw was, because of empowerment, we were able to reach out to consumers over 8,600 times this year. So there's, 15x change that has happened. Now, what does that do? That creates a buzz in the market. It disrupts your existing players. It disrupts the shopping behavior of a consumer, and that end of the day drives traffic into our stores. So that is what we saw. So, because we were a late comer into the whole, let's say, the online business bit, but we realized that we needed to do things differently, and we needed to do different things as well. So while we did our Raymond Reward program differently, we did different things as well. So this was one where we said, let's empower. And we saw that huge, let's say, momentum building up in the team. The second thing what we did was where we saw an opportunity because of, the presence of technology and the way technology was reaching out to people. It was fueling aspirations of people in smaller towns. So I'm talking about towns of, a population of 50,000 to 1 lakh. So there are about 8,000 such towns. Yeah, out of which there are about 1,200 towns which are in, let's say, urban markets. So urban markets definition is that you can actually reach them through a regular logistics partner. We are present only in 420 towns. Yeah. What we realized was that there was a white space of about 800 towns. However, our existing business model couldn't cater to it. So we completely revamped the model. It was a complete, we started from scratch. And today, in 9 months' time, we already have over 60 markets that we have been able to launch our formats. And in the next 2 months, maybe, we would launch another 50 more stores. Raymond took, 90 years to do 700 stores. And at this rate, we will actually set up 300 stores in 2 years. So, and that's thanks to, the disruption that has happened in media, in outreach to consumers, in growing aspirations of the population.
Thank you. Taking a cue from the previous panel discussion on, the kind of customers, what does really work with the customer, okay? As you know, India has got a very lopsided, structure of market. The organized sector in almost every industry, whether it is transportation, logistics, retail to some extent, to a large extent, and of course other fields, okay, you find that there are hugely fragmented small operators, okay? And then, as was discussed in the previous panel, there's a huge amount of disloyal customers. I wouldn't say loyal customers, because if you look at the market, if you're talking about something like 100 billion, 1 billion people, obviously there's a huge market which is still untapped. Okay. My question to you is that, from your perspective, what would you do to explore those markets which are actually untouched, in the sense that they are they are not brand conscious, B, they are definitely price conscious. Mostly they are not also aware of the value concept. Okay, and the whole world is turning towards value, as you all know. In retail, the whole world is going towards value retailing. So, just to coming back, summarize my question: what is the disruptive thing that you would suggest to get into the untapped market, which is fragmented? You just now mentioned about the the kirana shops and the local groceries, but then the question is, if we have to attack those customers who are very highly price conscious, at the same time not so brand conscious, how would you really do the disruption there?
So I would say it's a trap. It's a trap. This is what, in fact, most of the people think that, there's a huge untapped population and we should go and cater to. I think you should not do that. You should first of all be very clear as to who you want to serve. What is the problem? What is the shopper problem that you want to solve? And where does that customer is available, So if you see, the number of customers that you have, the population that India has is huge, but your business model may not be catering to all of them, And in greed of taking more customers, if you try to spread yourself too thin, I think that's when the problem will really start. So what is very, very important is to understand as to who you want to serve, how do you want to serve, what are the, what are the expectations that those customers have from you, and are you able to meet all those expectations in the best way possible or not? And when I say best way, it's both. It's so both in terms of experience.
Interrupt here for a minute. You mean to say that you're going to restrict your market? Is that the strategy that you're looking at?
I would say, in a way, yes. And which is where the difference is. See, what happens is that if you see there's luxury retail which is happening, but how many luxury retails can you actually open? So you have, if you have that product offering, you'll have to go and meet that set of customer only. Yeah, so that therefore does not provide you a huge base of customer. It can be a huge profitable business because with a limited set of customers, you can actually, meet their unique need in a very different way, in the most customized way, and you can generate a lot of profit. So that's a business model again, Now, if you want to go and reach out to, say, suppose if it is Star Bazaar, yeah, and Star Bazaar is a grocery retailer, and if with that store we want to go and say tap an area which is say B and C class town, where I think they are a little more value seeker because they don't have that money to spend. So whatever my offerings are, I'll have to dilute. And my organization is not actually structured in a way that I can actually meet the need of that segment the most efficient way, and therefore that is where I lose my plot. So I think what has happened is that with the emergence of this business, it has become more and more important to sharpen your focus, to target the same set of look at the business model, and which is called the channel, having the right channel for each segment, So that I think is the most important thing to be done. You cannot be using one weapon to kill different problems. You'll have to have, different solutions for each.
You want to add anything?
Yeah, it's like chasing a rainbow. Exactly what Ganesh mentioned. See, end of the day, you have a value proposition, and you need to be true to that value proposition. You have identified a kind of customer that would buy into that value proposition. Now, like I mentioned, we are looking at entering, let's say the 800 towns that exist. But you should remember that you can only do that if you have a portfolio, or you develop a new portfolio. Fortunately for Raymond, we have a huge span of products. So we sell products from a price point of 150 rupees a meter to 3 lakh rupees a meter. Yeah, so 2000x is my band. So therefore, when I decide to, let's say, enter Saupal in Bihar, my portfolio there is very different, and I can do that because I have that product. But if I was to, let's say, craft completely a new range, a new portfolio, I think I might be chasing a rainbow. So therefore, you need to be very clear. However, having said that, there are opportunities within existing, let's say, the existing consumers, because like you said, you have engaged and disengaged. I wouldn't say loyal and non-loyal, but engaged and disengaged. So if you look at, let's say, men's grooming, today the addressable market, let's say only for men's, would be about 25 crores. Yeah, but for Raymond, we have identified about 3.5 crores as our addressable market. My loyalty base today, I have 50 lakhs. Yeah, so there's still a 7 times I can actually grow. I have not reached out to 7 times the number of consumers that come to my stores. So that itself is a huge ocean out there before I chase the mirage of 25 crores.
Thank you, Ganesh and Mohit, for your input on the innovation which can cause disruption, but again, for the benefit of the organization. The question remains, of course, I leave it open to the learned people out here, is that who disrupts first? Is it the customer or is it the company? Okay, I think that's where we have to sort of become very clear as to, do we strategize in terms of becoming proactively disruptive for the benefit of the company, or wait for someone to disrupt us and then react? I would probably go for the first option, where you become proactive and start getting more innovative to cause a disruption, thereby giving more profitability to the stakeholders, of course. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for your time.